Led Zeppelin stands as one of the most iconic and influential rock bands in music history. Formed in London in 1968, the band consisted of Robert Plant on vocals, Jimmy Page on guitar, John Paul Jones on bass and keyboards, and John Bonham on drums. Their sound blended blues, rock, folk, and even hints of psychedelia, creating a distinctive and powerful style that resonated deeply with audiences. Led Zeppelin's impact was immediate and profound. They released a string of legendary albums, including their self-titled debut, 1969, Led Zeppelin II, 1969, Led Zeppelin III, 1970, Led Zeppelin IV, 1971, and Physical Graffiti, 1975, each showcasing their versatility and innovation. Hits like Stairway to Heaven, Whole Lotta Love, Immigrant Song became anthems of a generation. In the 1960s, John Lennon and Paul McCartney were the creative force behind the Beatles, but their partnership was far from perfect. As the band's fame grew, so did tensions between them. John, the rebellious visionary, wanted to push musical and political boundaries, while Paul, the meticulous businessman, favored polished, melodic tunes. The White Album sessions in 1968 marked a turning point. John felt constrained by Paul's control, and Paul was frustrated by John's growing disinterest and erratic behavior, exacerbated by Yoko Ono's constant presence. Their personal differences deepened, leading to heated arguments and a strained partnership. By the Let It Be sessions in 1969, their relationship had deteriorated further. The film documenting the recording captured their clashes, highlighting the toxic atmosphere. The Beatles disbanded in 1970, and John and Paul continued their feud through the press and their solo work, each blaming the other for the breakup. Despite moments of reconciliation in the mid-1970s, their relationship never fully healed. The story of John Lennon and Paul McCartney is a reminder that even legendary partnerships can be marked by intense rivalry, shaping the music that continues to resonate with generations. Crazy stories about Ozzy Osbourne. 1. After leaving Black Sabbath to pursue a solo career, Ozzy Osbourne wanted to impress his new record label, CBS. As a gesture of goodwill, he decided to release a set of doves into the air. However, things took a bizarre turn when Ozzy bit the head off the closest dove and spat it onto the ground while he was reportedly intoxicated. Despite describing the release of doves as a sign of peace, the CBS bosses were initially indifferent to Osbourne's actions. It was only after this shocking incident that they started to take notice of him. 2. During his 1982 solo tour stop in Des Moines, Ozzy Osbourne was at the height of his infamy and demonstrated his audacious persona. The singer famously bit the head off a bat, an act that has become one of the defining moments of his career. In an interview on the TV show Night Flight, Osbourne explained that he initially thought the bat was a fake rubber prop, but soon realized it was real after he picked it up. When asked if the bat was alive, Osbourne confirmed that it was until he bit its head off. This deranged episode has become a lasting legacy of Osbourne's music career. Osbourne recalls, "I had to go straight from the gig to the hospital, and the guy said, 'We better give you some precautionary rabies shots.' I had one in each rear, one in each arm, and one in the top of my leg, and I had to have that every night. For anyone out there who thinks it's cool, and if you want to be a complete dick, try it." 3. In 2002, during their peak of reality TV fame, the Osbourne family was bizarrely invited as guests to the White House. However, the event turned out to be a nightmare for George W. Bush, the then U.S. president. Ozzy Osbourne, the notorious Black Sabbath leader, made the most of the free bar and had a great time, while Bush was allegedly so annoyed with him that he muttered, "This might have been a mistake." The two never developed a friendship and haven't met since. The rock band. The Doors were on their way to play a show at the University of Michigan in 1967. The rest of the band wanted to stop and get ice cream to eat on the way. Jim said ice cream was for babies and demanded they get liquor for him when they stopped. The band got ice cream and Jim got whiskey. Something about the band enjoying their ice cream put him in a really bad mood, and he pounded whiskey the rest of the way there and got shit-faced. When they got to the university, he was too drunk to go on. The band started playing and Jim didn't come out onto the stage. So the band went off stage and took a break for a half hour. Crowd started booing. After a half hour, they came back out with Jim, but he was so drunk he just wandered the stage and made strange noises and screaming and slurring into the microphone. Krieger and Densmore walked off stage. They'd had enough. Manzarek picked up a guitar and tried to keep the show going. Jim started throwing objects at the audience and further antagonizing them, and eventually just sat down. Manzarek helped carry him off stage, and the show was over. In the audience was Jim Osterberg, the future Iggy Pop. Most of the audience were furious, but Iggy actually found the debacle very entertaining and inspiring. Later that year, his new band, the Stooges, debuted playing their first live show, and Iggy began adopting the wild, belligerent antics he had seen Jim Morrison exhibit into his on-stage performances. In the mid-1980s, Guns N' Roses burst onto the Los Angeles rock scene with a raw, unfiltered energy. Comprising Axl Rose's powerful vocals, Slash's iconic guitar riffs, Duff McKagan's thundering bass, Izzy Stradlin's rhythm guitar, and Steven Adler's pounding drums, they quickly became legends. Their breakthrough came in July 1987, shortly after releasing their debut album, Appetite for Destruction. They were set to perform at the legendary Ritz nightclub in New York City. The Ritz was packed, and the tension was high. As the band took the stage, they launched into Welcome to the Jungle, electrifying the crowd from the first riff. Axl prowled the stage, his voice piercing through the haze, while Slash delivered blistering solos. Midway through Sweet Child O' Mine, the chemistry between the band and the crowd created an unforgettable moment. They ended with a thunderous rendition of Paradise City, leaving the audience in euphoria. Word of their performance spread, and Appetite for Destruction skyrocketed to the top of the charts. That night at the Ritz, Guns N' Roses embodied the spirit of rock and roll, raw, rebellious, and unapologetic. It was a moment that solidified their place in rock history and showed the world what true rock and roll was all about. Did you know? The Rolling Stones' legendary Royal Albert Hall escape. Did you know that during a 1966 performance at London's prestigious Royal Albert Hall, the Rolling Stones had to be smuggled out in potato sacks to evade a rioting crowd? The atmosphere during the concert quickly turned chaotic as fans surged forward, overwhelming security. Fearing for their safety amidst the frenzy, the Rolling Stones were faced with a perilous situation. Their quick-thinking manager, Andrew Loog Oldham, devised a daring plan to ensure the band's safe exit, disguising Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and the rest of the band members in potato sacks typically used for storing stage equipment. Under the cover of these sacks, the Stones discreetly slipped out of the venue, evading the clamoring fans and rioting chaos. In the summer of 1970, the Doors ventured into the soul of Los Angeles with their iconic album, L.A. Woman. Jim Morrison's lyrics, infused with raw introspection, painted vivid portraits of the city's allure and shadows. Opening with The Changeling, the album's bluesy rock rhythms set a tone of exploration and reinvention. Tracks like the titular L.A. Woman and Hyacinth House delved into love, loss, and the frenetic urban life of Venice Beach. However, amidst creative triumphs, there lingered melancholy. Riders on the Storm, with its haunting melody and Morrison's soulful vocals, hinted at endings, foreshadowing his departure just months after the album's release. L.A. Woman remains a timeless tribute to the Doors' musical genius and the spirit of a city that both inspired and challenged them. A legacy that continues to captivate listeners with its blend of blues, rock, and Morrison's poetic prowess. Did you know the story behind Metallica's Enter Sandman? Did you know that Metallica's iconic song Enter Sandman almost didn't make it onto their legendary 1991 album, The Black Album? Guitarist Kirk Hammett's late-night riff inspired the track, but frontman James Hetfield's initial lyrics about sudden infant death syndrome were deemed too dark. After multiple rewrites, Hetfield shifted to themes of childhood fears and nightmares, making the song more relatable. Producer Bob Rock pushed the band through numerous takes, resulting in the polished, powerful track we know today. Enter Sandman became a massive hit, propelling Metallica to new heights and helping the Black Album become one of the best-selling albums of all time. Fun fact: in 2003, Rolling Stone included Enter Sandman in its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. In 1968, the newly formed Led Zeppelin, featuring Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham, began their journey to rock stardom. One of their most captivating stories unfolded during the recording of Led Zeppelin IV at Headley Grange, a Victorian-era mansion in Hampshire, England. Headley Grange offered a unique, relaxed environment that starkly contrasted with traditional studios. Its vast spaces and unique acoustics inspired the band to experiment with their sound. A famous instance was the recording of John Bonham's drums for When the Levee Breaks, using an unconventional setup that created an iconic sound. The creation of Stairway to Heaven added to the album's mystique. During a session in Headley Grange's living room, Jimmy Page played a chord progression, while Robert Plant, as if possessed, quickly penned the lyrics that would become legendary. The eerie atmosphere of the mansion, with unexplained noises and a sense of being watched, fueled the band's creativity. Opting for a minimalist album cover featuring an old man with a bundle of sticks, found by Plant in a junk shop, further emphasized the music over commercialism. Released on November 8, 1971, Led Zeppelin IV became an instant classic, cementing Led Zeppelin's legacy. Stairway to Heaven achieved mythic status, captivating listeners worldwide. Their time at Headley Grange remains a testament to their innovative spirit and the magical synergy that defined their music. If you enjoyed that video, feel free to like and subscribe for more awesome rock and roll stories.